Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today we'll be reading part 2 of For the World We're Gonna Make by Ingi. Again, I hope I said that right. Read by Red Loves Blue. Let's get right into it. Okay. Even with the ether cloaking him, Banner raises his head when Thor arrives, sniffing at the air. The gamma radiation has made him more attuned to the stones than the others, and he's the one moving piece in Thor's admittedly hasty plan. But that's something he will have to risk. He's healed mind, now he must heal body. To raise the dead, one must understand the living. This is the basic lesson of every relevant Asgardian story Thor has ever been told. The time stone barely glows when Thor touches it, untrusting. It is old and dangerous, but he needs only the barest assistance from it. You do not possess the knowledge to wield me, it says. I'm afraid the wizard is otherwise occupied at the moment, Thor replies. I know enough to get you to work as I need. Thanos' daughter knew better than to choose to stop him as her first priority, but Banner is a different man entirely. An honorable one, for certain, but Thor cannot afford to be caught in another interminable discussion about something that should be simple. The longer a wrong has had to settle in the fabric of the universe, the harder it is to right it, and Thor has many messes to fix before he braves his own fear and weakness to do what his blood is calling for. He points his index finger at Banner, and purple light envelops him like a shield, giving him the kind of power that beings have killed, the power to wield all 6 Infinity Stone for the barest of seconds. It's enough. Thor taps the Time Stone with his left thumb twice. Green light shoots from the ring and wraps around Banner's right arm, and Thor breathes in deeply for a second, 2, then lets go. Time unravels around Banner's arm like a ball of wool in the paws of a flurkin, and before Thor's eyes, the power to withstand the gauntlet reaches Banner's arm when such strength was needed. Banner shifts his eyes from what he's holding in his left hand, a pointy piece of metal with the inscription Veronica. Thor, he says, eyes on his newly healed arm before they shift to Thor's rings. Banner, my friend, Thor calls cheerfully. He uncloaks himself and waves with a grin that keeps trying to turn into a grimace. How did you know I was here? I can smell you, from under the gamma radiation. Impressive, really. Have you ever considered changing deodorants? I do not wear any. No deodorant in Midgard is strong enough for Asgardian men, Thor says with utter sincerity, as Banner observes the easy flexing of the joints in his right hand. And they all smell like frolicking in a flower field. Also, listen about the... Banner rises, and something in his eyes gives Thor pause. Tony gave me this, you know, he says, showing Thor the chunk of metal. It's a piece of what's left of Veronica, he said. I'm my own containment unit now, and I better not forget it. He smiles, and it feels like the sort of smile Thor has given his enemies before, when they tested his patience enough to make their deaths a necessity rather than entertaining. The way I see it, you're doing what needs to be done. How in hell you're doing it, I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to understand, but Godspeed. Cool, Thor says, and gives Banner a few friendly slaps on the shoulder. As the Space Stone takes him away, Banner shakes his head and waves, the closest to a real smile Thor has seen from him in a while. And thanks for the arm. There is no disturbance of the ground around the grave, because Tony Stark has not yet been buried. There are only metal scraps surrounding the pod that was made in a hurry, after Lady Potts did not allow the wizard to keep Stark's body in stasis with the Time Stone. No one has yet had the time or strength to clean the area of debris, and the aether slinks under Thor's skin almost gleefully as it shows Thor that the debris is never in the same place for long. As Midgard's defenders leave to whatever they have left after the battle, they come stand by Stark's pod to pay their respects. Thor does his best to block out the knowledge. It's a sign of the stone's growing influence over him, and they are using themselves in his name, and they may as well kill him as easily as wielding them all at once would. But death has never been one of Thor's fears, and this, more than anything, is worth dying for. "I need you," he admits, rubbing the orange stone on his pinky. The soul stone must be, by nature, the most human of them all, and Thor knows people best of all. There is much that needs to be brought back. He blinks, and there's only Asgard's gardens around him, the ones he was raised in, tinted in the orange lighting of the sky. He walks on orange mist towards the biggest tree in the garden, because he knows what he will find there. It will not make it hurt any less. He walks and the aether lights his feet with red fog, futilely trying to turn orange mist into grass. This, Thor understands, or perhaps it is the Mind Stone that does. Reality cannot make souls into anything less than what they are, and as red fog slowly turns to orange mist, Thor is reminded that souls, however, can often bend reality to their liking. "To wield me, you must pay the price," the soul stone finally speaks, an echo all around him. Thor has stopped in front of the apple tree, and he's left his heart behind, and no amount of racing will take it back to its place. A perfect replica of Loki sits on the lowest branch, frozen in time. His hand is reaching out into the nothingness, and Thor reaches back without thinking, and then slowly lets his arm fall. "There is nothing you love left to lose," the stone says, solemn almost to the point of respect for Thor's grief. "I will allow you to wield me, and you may recover all that has been lost, but not him. You must pay the price as the others did." Thor closes his eyes, swallows the grief down just enough to give shape to the words in his heart. "What are you to speak of loss?" he replies, and the soul world around him ripples like a lake after a pebble. "I have paid your price tenfold. I will be forever paying your price. Have I not lost all of what I love? You said that I have. Does it matter if it was to you or to what you caused? Child, the nature of sacrifice is permanence." And the longer the soul stone speaks, the more Thor hears the All-Father in its voice. It feels as bitter as most things have been lately, but the All-Father's voice is gentler than it ever was in life too. "That which you give cannot be given back, or there is no worth in the giving to begin with. Will you take my grief back then? Will I not wake from dreams of my brother's dead eyes centuries after his return?" Thor's eyes snap open as fog shifts around him, and the replica of Loki is now but a child, smiling at him. "Some things even you cannot return to me," he says, and does not care if the stone hears the sob in his voice. This is not weakness. This is humanity. This is soul, and it's the only thing that could ever make this work. What is a soul to you? I will give you mine for his, and not expect to have it back. Should that not be enough? As a response, Thor is back in Midgard, staring blankly at Tony Stark's corpse. But when he looks down at the year rings, the soul stone is glowing, and as red fog slinks around his left arm, his right arm shines with orange light, and Thor feels Stark's soul amongst the others that were lost and tugs. In the pod, Stark opens his eyes. Thor lifts Stormbreaker to the sky and sends a burst of lightning to the ground before him. a beacon. It is only fair. It is what needs to be done. It might also be difficult what Thor has left to do, but that will not be a problem for long. Come. The Mind Stone calls to him, calls him to the Wakanda forest. It is time. Come. And Thor does. This one is easy. He promised the Mind Stone as much, and he does not break his promises. Reality on his left arm and soul on his right. He turns his hand and places the back of it on his left hand, the Mind Stone digging into his skin. There's 2 points of almost unbearable heat pressed against his left palm, but Thor cannot imagine ever regretting those scars. The Vision's soul feels like a metal at the tip of his tongue and power stronger than any storm, but it also feels human. Distinctly human. All that was once born, indeed. If you bring this soul back, the Soul Stone warns in the All-Father's voice, it will never be the same. No soul is ever the same, Thor says, ribcage so full of victory that he can barely breathe. It matters not what it returns, what matters is that something does. That not all is lost. That is enough. That has to be. Yes, but the nature of it does not change. This one will. Thor smiles so wide that his lips crack open at the corners. Then there's light, yellow and orange and red, yet another sunrise. The Vision lays on the ground, still wearing the body of a machine, but there is no stone on his forehead, and no gap where the stone would be. And he might never bleed red, but neither do most beings Thor knows. He feels for his soul one last time. There is no power that should not be there, only humanity. The metal on Thor's tongue is now copper. His bones ache to rest, but he is not yet done. He wipes off the blood by his mouth with the back of his left hand and walks further into the forest. Not that one, the All-Father's voice says, reading into his soul. That one is mine. We have talked about this, Thor replies good-naturedly. Whatever the soul does in response, it feels like taking a wrong step and falling off a cliff. Only when Thor blinks, he is in fact in front of the cliff, and the world is shades of orange once again. That was not necessary. Now you're just being petty. She was given to me as a sacrifice to wield me. She cannot be brought back. Says who? Thor kneels by the edge of the cliff and looks down. There's a body enveloped in orange mist at the very bottom, but it is not broken, only frozen. You deemed Barthen worthy, did you not? He passed your test. Yes. But he did not wield you. The stone is conspicuously silent, and Thor would swear a ripple goes through the mist like a shiver. He never intended to. But someone else did. But Thor's fighting with words against words, and he does not have his brother to rely on this time. And yet, the Soul Stone is as human as it can be. The Soul Stone is humanity, everything alive. What lives can grieve, what lives can understand. The mist begins to rise, carrying a body within it. Thor reaches out with hands bathed in a red glow, and as he catches the body of Natasha Romanoff, orange light erupts from it and blinds him. He opens his eyes to the Wakandan forest. Romanoff is laid gently on the ground, because he needs both hands for what he's about to do. Just one more thing before he goes. Just one more thing. The universe was brighter not so long ago, he says carefully, pressing on the orange stone and focusing on the feeling of the aether under his skin. Many more lives than those of conscious beings were lost, and the universe was poisoned for it. It must be made right. I will give you the souls you asked for, the soul stone says in Mother's voice. I will give you the universe as it was. The aether whispers as Jane. It will hurt greatly, they both say, one echoing the other. And Thor laughs until he can feel it in his ribs. More than losing them? It does. It is agony of the likes that Thor has never felt before and would not have believed he could bear. But everything is better for it. And when it's over, the light of the space stone cradles him in cold hands and brings him to the restored Asgard, to the gardens he was raised in, so that he may lay on the grass and writhe in the aftershocks in the dark for as long as he must. Brother, says the remains of blue light. Where it was once a woman's voice, it now speaks in Loki's, and Thor does not understand why, but he believes with all his heart that he is being comforted, somehow. Stand, brother. You are not yet finished. Please, Thor whispers. His bones are heavy. Please, why? You are worthy. And Thor sobs, and he digs his hands so far into the ground that the ashes of his ancestors call to him, but he stands. The soul stone is painfully hot to the touch now, and yet Thor presses his left palm against it. The aether curls around his heart, gleeful, and wraps his arms in red fog. And Thor closes his eyes and seeks the souls he needs. First, he brings back the Asgardians who perished in Ragnarok, as far as Thor dares to go. I'm sorry, Mother, he says, shaking. He's weak, and he's burning, and there's only so much he can do without dying, and even after. Not me, son, says the All-Father when Thor touches his soul. Or perhaps it's just the soul stone itself. But Thor has never fooled himself about what he might be able to recover. He knows what Father would say if he dared bring him back. He lets it go and turns to the soul of the Asgardians fallen at the statesmen. One he would know blind. He would know without the soul stone's power. It calls to him like a home beacon, and he's not letting this one go. His vision blurs with tears first, and then with orange mist, and every few blinks he can see a shadow of Loki's face before him. But it's impossible to see if he's smiling. He wasn't, really, the other times. Maybe it is time. I will not leave you, he says to the shadow, clenching his fists, the hard lines of the rings digging into his skin. I will not. If I leave you, there's nothing left. You fool, Loki's voice responds, too fond to be real. Look. The shadow of Loki's face leaves, and so does his voice, but the orange mist does not. When Thor wipes his eyes, he finds himself looking at a sky of pinks and orange and yellows. In the line of the horizon, the sun is slowly beginning to rise. He falls to his knees and sees nothing else. Brother. Thor chokes on air like it's his very first breath. A hand is gripping his shoulder, hard enough to hurt, even after all he has been through. He was stabbed nearly through the heart once, and the memory of it feels like sweet relief in comparison with this hand. It's not the first time he feels it. Loki, he mumbles. His mouth tastes like blood, and the hand on his shoulder grips tighter. He can feel sunlight warming his face, but everything is dark, likely because his eyes are closed. But then they're not, and the sky is bright and blue above him, and sitting by him there's... Finally, terrible timing as always. I was just about to check for brain damage, Loki says, and it's Loki, playfully twirling a dagger between his fingers. His other hand is digging its nails painfully into Thor's shoulder, and his face is shadowed by his hair in a way Thor recognizes from after Mother's death. You really do love ruining my fun. Is stabbing your solution to everything? Thor hears himself respond, hoarse from pain and tears, and immediately erases his memory of doing so, because he does not sound nearly as dignified as he liked. It has worked so far, Loki shrugs and then freezes. Thor does not, because he's had a lot more time to get used to his brother's death. But neither of them says what they're thinking out loud. There's no need to remember now that the one time Loki's favorite tactic failed, even if they will both struggle to forget for the rest of their lives. Thor finds his brother's wrist and squeezes, almost as hard as the grip on his shoulder feels. "You're back." "Well," Loki says, pointing at the sliver of sun visible over the horizon. "Told you so." "And somehow you make it sound like you personally made the sunrise," Thor replies, grinning. "It hurts horribly, but not as much as other things. Not nearly as much." "I would say it was you for once, actually." Loki sighs, lips twisting in disgust that Thor is almost entirely sure is fake. There's a beat of silence while Loki carefully thinks of how to ask, and Thor dreads it, but it eventually comes. "Mother?" he asks softly. Thor shakes his head. "Father?" And this time whatever expression is on Thor's face is enough. They sit quietly for a minute before Loki sighs and releases Thor's shoulder, pulls him up to his feet by the arm with only the barest assistance from Thor himself. He dismissively taps the ring on Thor's right hand. "Whatever shall we do with these?" Thor looks down at the stones and curls his right hand into a fist. He can feel blood on his face from smiling again. "Well, brother, put them back." The Aether's true nature is fluid, and fluid, unlike stones, can be in two places at once. "I shall keep a sliver of your power," Thor tells the Aether. "The rest must go back to where we took it from. If you do not have the power to wield me against my nature, I will rip you apart," the Aether warns, or threatens. The slickly red glow under Thor's skin burns brighter for an instant, right before Loki punches him in the face. "Loki!" "Quiet, brother," Loki replies as Thor spits out blood. Magic spills out of him, enveloping Thor in green light. The red glow flares up, then diminishes petulantly. "I heard that. Go," Loki hisses. "Do what you're supposed to. It is your nature." Red fog curls around the rings Thor set down on the grass, and the last remains of the red glow under his skin shift to his left middle finger. Loki snickers, then raises an eyebrow at him. "Do you reckon it absorbed some of your mortal's disagreeable nature?" Thor sighs and taps the time stone with his middle finger. It does not want to be used by him, but it does want to be returned to where it belongs. And it will take anything Thor wants to whenever he tells it if it will take it back home. If stones know about home at all. It calls to the wizard because the wizard is what it knows, and because the wizard understands it better than most. The stone shines with green light that washes over the rings, and Thor focuses on the power of the Aether left under his skin on it. "You will keep them in stasis," he tells the Aether. "No more timelines." The Aether swirls and tugs at his life force, and it knows when it has lost. Thor feels it in the moment the last of its power leaves him, and he collapses heavily against his brother as the light over the ring becomes blinding. When it dissipates, the stone and the Aether are gone. Thor slides down to the grass and tugs at Loki's arm so he loses his balance and falls, but falls gracefully to the patch of grass next to his. He gets a dirty look for his efforts and an elbow on his ribs, but Loki does not attempt to leave. It's warm in Asgard's garden, even this early in the morning, but the biggest apple tree in the palace grounds is close enough to offer them shade when it gets too warm. They sit side by side and they watch the sun rise. Okay, I'll be the first one to admit, I think I struggled on that one a bit more than the first part. But to be fair, I did give myself less breaks in between, well, speaking and, well, all that. Yeah, but admittedly, when I first read this one, I cried. Like, I almost cried like 5 times. But yeah, I just loved it. So if you guys liked it too, go ahead and give a little kudos to the author. Honestly, it was amazing. Like, wow. Yeah, so have a good day, night, or whatever other time. Bye.